Three, two, one. Welcome back to
Welcome back
Earth
to Earth
Savers.
Savers.
Hey guys, this is our next podcast. This one's about the bleaching of coral reefs in the ocean. And yeah, I'll start it off. Coral reefs are some of the most diverse ecosystems of the world, being the rainforests of the sea because they carry a lot of nutrients that help a bunch of different ecosystems. And then there's a variety of different reefs. Some come from warm and shallow areas, while others hide in the depths of the ocean in the deepest places of the world. And that's where they survive based on all the heat that's down there, and they can make their own separate ecosystems down there that we've only seen a few because we've only taken a few submarines down there. And then the coral polypus is what's responsible for creating reefs. These are like different smaller corals that grow, and then they create these reefs and these strong ecosystems. And about 25% of the ocean's fish depend on healthy coral reefs. And this is because they depend on these reefs for food, because they can find a bunch of food in this area. They shelter, they can hide in the reefs, and they provide good habitats for them. And they're also good reproductive areas where many fish come and they reproduce.
We talked about how coral reefs are diverse areas and they support a bunch of forms of life. But a good example of that is the Northwest Hawaiian Island coral reefs. They support over 7,000 species of fish, invertebrates, plants, sea turtles, birds, and marine animals. So that's just an easy example where you can see how important they can be. And then they're also important to us, even if we don't really realize it now. 70% of the oxygen we breathe comes from the ocean, and reefs are a foundation for that oxygen. They're also a great source of food and new medicine. And over 500 million people depend on coral reefs for food, income, and protection. So definitely, we rely on them more than we realize.
Yeah. So what's going on with these coral reefs? So basically, they're going through a process that's called coral bleaching, and this is when like the diverse colors of the corals start to go white, and this is a signal that they're starting to die. And then once they're in the bleaching phase, they'll either get saved if things get better, or they'll go completely worse and then they die. So what affects bleaching is pollution, sedimentation that falls into the water, unsustainable fishing practices. This would be like throwing in big nets underwater and then having them go all across the ocean floor, and this greatly damages coral reefs because it just plucks them off the floor. Single-use plastics, chemicals, and sunscreen. This is another big one. This is what causes the most bleaching for coral reefs. Climate change is another big one. This causes a raise in ocean temperatures, which then causes ocean acidification because the pH in the water starts to change. And corals are just like any living organism, can only live in specific pH temperatures. And once the pH becomes imbalanced due to heat, then the corals start to bleach. And if the pH doesn't get better, they'll die. A big thing that caused climate change recently was a recent El Nino that affected 70% of the coral reef systems worldwide. Corals in the bleaching stage can improve before they die, but even if they do improve, it takes several years for the ecosystems to recover.
A real life example that I remember hearing about is the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. It's like one of the biggest reefs in the world, I think. And I read that over half of the reef has been bleached, so it's definitely in danger of not being able to survive because of that. So that's pretty scary.
Another one that I remember was in biology class freshman year, our teacher was talking about how in Hawaii they just set new laws for certain sunscreens that you have to wear in Hawaii so that you don't damage the coral reefs in the area. And then I remember when I went to Hawaii this year, they also had like certain laws, like there wasn't a bunch of sunscreens, and you could only buy specific ones.
It's so weird.
Yeah, but it
Um,
saves the
so
environment.
it, so some ways you can help. are supporting renewable energy, eliminating all single-use plastics like plastic water bottles and soda bottles and stuff like that. And then the most important and easiest switch you can make is like we've talked about, just switching to reef safe sunscreen, so that when you wear sunscreen and go swimming, it doesn't damage the reefs. So. And then another easy one you can do is don't buy pesticides for your lawn. Find other alternatives.
Yeah. So the organization that you can donate to that we found was going to be SaveTheReef.org. And again, we'll leave it in the description of this podcast. So with Save the Reef, you can go directly to their website and donate to their website, and they take those donations and they separate them and donate them to a bunch of other websites or organizations. And then they also have some shirts that you can buy that they take the money to help. They use it to help coral reefs. And then in that website, you can also find a bunch of different organizations that we'll also leave down below. So the charities they donate to are the Reef Restoration Foundation, the SASC, which is a team of scientists that worked for the development of sharks and other various things. Oceana, protecting the world's oceans. The Great Barrier Reef Legacy, just like Jared was talking about in his example. The Marine Conservation Society, and their own website that they take as well. So yeah, that was it for this podcast. Thanks for
Thanks for
listening, you
listening.
guys.